summers can be a lot of rain, and some summers are not that much rain.
I'm proud. then we are in trouble.
Colleagues, please be seated. We're going to start in a minute.
On Friday we had another rocket attack, 20 lives.
Dear colleagues, please be seated. Dear colleagues, I would like to begin by welcoming the former presidents of the Parliamentary Assembly who are with us today in this hemicycle, Mr. René van der Linden, Monsieur Jean-Claude Mignon, Madame Anne Brasser, Mr. Michele Nicoletti, Madame Liliane Moore-Pasquier, Mr. Rick Dems, Mr. Tini Cox. I would ask all of you, dear colleagues, to welcome them by applauding our former presidents for serving this assembly. Thank you. Usually, we start our work in every session with a formal speech by the president who describes the forthcoming week, and in between, at points in his speech, he may interject some personal thoughts on the issues we are facing. I would like to make an exception today and address you only with thoughts that I believe many of us share. Why are we gathered here, dear colleagues? Is this a chance meeting resulting from the decisions of our parliaments to send some people to Strasbourg for a term of office, offering them the opportunity to travel abroad for a while? Maybe for some it is like that, but I firmly believe that the vast majority of colleagues who come to plenary meetings in our hemicycle or to meetings of our committees in different parts of the European continent have consciously chosen to serve ideas that this institution has taken from theory and put into practice. For what else but an act of respect for the principles of democracy can be our decision to be observers at elections, for example, to be rapporteurs in problematic areas of our continent, protecting always the weak. Just 2 weeks ago, this room hosted the European Conference of Speakers of Parliaments, marking the 50th anniversary since the first such gathering was held in Strasbourg. More than 60 speakers and vice speakers from the 46 member states and of the Council of Europe and many partners, observers and neighboring countries, as well as the heads of several interparliamentary assemblies, attended this important meeting filled with rich, engaging, but most importantly, timely discussions. In the speech in which I welcomed them, I described the scene I had seen recently in a Strasbourg street while walking with my officer director, Mr. Sergei Hrysikov. We saw a long queue of young people waiting. At first, I thought that they were waiting to get into a club or a trendy bar. But Sergei brought me back to reality. They are waiting, he said, to get the daily meal provided by the French government for €1 or even free if they are poor children. And my reaction when I spoke to the presidents of the parliaments was that we are all in politics for these children who are standing with dignity to build a better society. We are here for those who need a helping hand, a caress of sympathy, a kind word of support and defense. At a time when billionaires are watching from the front row of the US presidential inauguration ceremony and the ministers of his administration are right behind them, at a time when the power of money and guns seem to dominate, we are the counterbalance, especially the Council of Europe, which insists on asserting that the principles of democracy may be deeply rooted in time. I repeat what I recently said to the speakers of our parliaments. Democracy may be old, but not old-fashioned. And there are many in our world who turn to Europe for courage and strength to believe once again in principles and values such as democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. The world is watching us, and people are looking for prudent leadership in this era of the backsliding of democracy. Dear colleagues, I would like to express my respect and admiration to all of you. I have said on many occasions, when I travel and give speeches in national parliaments or lectures in universities or meet important personalities of our time, that the members of this Parliamentary Assembly, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, are a model of politics. You are here voluntarily. You offer your work free of charge, and sometimes you are absent from your constituencies so that many of our voters abuse us of being absent because we have not all taken care to make known to them what we do in this great organization, how exactly we are working to keep alive the idea of democracy and the sacrifices needed for it. In the week ahead, we have difficult issues to deal with. There are member countries that need more attention because of the retreat of civil rights from powers that behave arbitrarily. No doubt we are facing a moment in history when our societies and our citizens are confronted with challenges to the international legal order and the democratic values that we have taken for granted so long. Defending freedom and peace in Ukraine, for example, is actually defending democracy. And for their part, European democracies must continue to fully support Ukraine in its fight against the brutal and illegal aggression by the Russian Federation and strengthen this support as much as needed. For it is clear, the outcome of this war is bound to shape the future of our continent, and from that perspective, this is our war too. The war for values and principles that constitute the spine of our European identity. Let us not have illusions. Once a dictator, always a dictator. This Assembly firmly and decisively stands against those who undermine democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. I wish you all a productive week. Thank you. So, the first item now on the agenda is the examination of credentials of new members. The names of the members are in document 16147. If no credentials are challenged, the credentials will be ratified. Are any credentials challenged? No. The credentials are ratified, and I welcome our new colleagues. The next item on the agenda is changes in the membership of committees. The candidatures for the general committees of the Assembly have been published as document committees, Commission 2025-03 and Addendum 1. Are these proposals approved, colleagues? Yes, thank you. Before we examine the draft agenda, the Assembly needs to consider requests for debates under the urgent and current affairs procedures. The Bureau has received the following requests. Urgent procedure debate requested by the Committee of Ministers. Draft Council of Europe Convention on the Protection of the Environment through Criminal Law. Urgent procedure debate requested by the Monitoring Committee. The situation in Georgia and follow-up to Resolution 2585 of 2025. Challenge on substantive grounds of the still unratified credentials of the parliamentary delegation of Georgia. Urgent procedure debate requested by the group of the European People's Party. The arrest of the mayor of Istanbul and the state of democracy and human rights in Turkey. Urgent procedure debate requested by the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe. Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, the need for accountability, avoiding impunity. Urgent procedure debate requested by more than 20 members. An urgent call for an immediate end to the humanitarian blockade of Gaza and the reinstatement of the ceasefire. Current affairs debate requested by the 5 political groups. Protests and rallies in the Western Balkans and Central Europe. Current affairs debates requested by the 5 political groups. An urgent call for an immediate end to the humanitarian blockade of Gaza and the reinstatement of the ceasefire. As regards the Gaza debate, the Bureau proposes to hold current affairs debate rather than an urgent affairs debate. Is that agreed, dear colleagues? Yes, thank you. Consequently, the Assembly will hold the following debates. Urgent procedure debate on draft Council of Europe Convention on the Protection of the Environment through Criminal Law for references to the Committee on Social Affairs, Health and Sustainable Development to be held as the first debate on Thursday morning. Urgent procedure debate on the situation in Georgia and follow-up to Resolution 2585 of 2025, challenge on substantive grounds of the still unratified credentials of the parliamentary delegation of Georgia for reference to the Monitoring Committee to be held as the second debate on Thursday morning. Urgent procedure debate on the arrest of the mayor of Istanbul and the state of democracy and human rights in Turkey for reference to the Monitoring Committee to be held at 4 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon as the second item on the agenda. Urgent procedure debate on Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, the need for accountability, avoiding impunity for reference to the Committee of Legal Affairs and Human Rights to be held as the third item on Wednesday afternoon. Current affairs debates on protests and rallies in the Western Balkans and Central Europe to be held as the third item on Tuesday afternoon with Mr. Papandreou as lead speaker. Current affairs debate on an urgent call for an immediate end to the humanitarian blockade of Gaza and the reinstatement of the ceasefire to be held as the first debate on Thursday afternoon with Mr. Paul Gals as lead speaker. The next item of business is the adoption of the agenda for the second part of the 2025 ordinary session. The document you have in your files is 161836. The draft agenda submitted for the Assembly's approval was adopted by the Bureau this morning. I remind you that we have also agreed to hold 4 urgent procedure debates and 2 current affairs debates. I must also inform you that because of the large number of registered speakers, the Bureau has agreed that speaking time in all debates on Tuesday should be 2 minutes. Is the draft agenda agreed? Yes. Katia Polidori, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Point of order. Vorrei chiederle.
I would like to ask you, on behalf of the EPP group, to refer back to committee the report on document 16135, 21st of March 2025, putting an end to collective expulsions of foreign citizens. This is scheduled for debate tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so Mrs. Katia Polidori proposes an alternation in our agenda. I remind you that on a motion to alter the draft agenda, the only members who can be heard are the mover of the motion, 1 speaker against, 1 spokesperson of the committee concerned. Mrs. Polidori has already moved the motion. Does anyone wish to speak against the proposal alternation? Mr. Schwabe, you have the floor.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, I have to say I'm quite a long time here. This is a very inappropriate behavior. We can discuss reports. You can be against reports. You can make amendments. You can be against amendments. But we have a report. We ask a rapporteur to prepare a report, and I think we need it here. And I hear some rumors that there is a kind of cooperation of some groups here to go against it, and I think this is really a very difficult situation and a dangerous situation for this assembly. So I ask each and everyone in all groups really to follow the rules and the way we usually work here, and I ask you not to follow this request.
Okay. Okay, does everyone wish to speak again? Frank spoke against, Mrs. Vabe, and now I would ask the President, the Chair of the Committee, the Migration Committee, Oleksi Goncharenko. Oleksi, would you like to take the floor on that and give us the opinion of your committee?
Thank you, dear President. Our committee is ready to present the report. The report was supported by the committee, but it is a decision of Assembly. How the Assembly will decide, we will move accordingly. We are ready to present the position of committee. We are ready to present the report. It's the decision of Assembly to take it or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexi. Now we will proceed, dear colleagues, to vote on the motion for an alternation for the agenda moved by Mrs. Polidori, as I have said. So, let us be careful. Those who support the proposal to remove the report should vote yes. Those who reject the proposal and approve the draft agenda should vote no. The vote is open. The vote is closed. I call for the result to be presented. The proposal is rejected. So the draft agenda is as such. And now we go to the next item. It is a joint debate on the progress report of the Bureau and the Studying Committee, document 16140, addendum 1 and 2. The progress report will be presented by Mr. Andrei Hunko. With this, we consider the report by the ad hoc committee of the Bureau on observation of the elections to the Assembly of Kosovo, 9 February 2025, document 16146. The report on election observation will be presented by Mrs. Petra Bayer. We will suspend this item at 12:30 to enable the prize award ceremony for the Council of Europe Museum Prize. The debate will then continue at 4:30 p.m. this afternoon. And now I call Mr. Andrei Hunko to present the first report on behalf of the Bureau. Andrei, as you know, you have 7 minutes now, and of course 3 minutes at the end to reply to the debate. When you reach the floor, you can start your speech. Do you need to insert your card, maybe? No problem, you are excused, and I will take this opportunity to say that Andrei, after 15 years of being a member of this assembly, is going to leave now after this session. And I would like to thank you, Andrei, for all what you have done for the Assembly and, of course, the organization. You have the floor now.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Let's see, I will be here as well. And we will have...
I'll repeat it in June as well.
Still, we will still have the situation of a possible recount in Germany. So we don't know exactly, because it was extremely narrow. But first, let me thank you for granting me the honor to present the progress report. And I think we should start. The progress report generally is kind of, we have a lot of technical references in our report, which is presented to you. But as well, it is a kind of general debate. We have in the beginning of every week what happens in Europe, and I think the big challenge we are facing in Europe is the question of democracy. And I would like to start with a new situation we are facing with the inauguration of a new president in the US and the implications which that means for our countries and especially for international cooperation, as well for this assembly, as I think part of the bodies the US so far left, meanwhile, part of our organizations. So I think in these circumstances, where is a threat, one from that side, other external threats we have talked a lot about, and we have some internal problems, I think, as well. So in these circumstances, I would like to congratulate the General Secretary, Alain Berset, for pushing for this democracy pact. So there is this proposal to have a democracy pact in Europe, in the Council of Europe, and have possibly, we have to discuss about this, possibly a new summit of head of states next year, which could be an outcome of the debate on that democratic pact. I think it's necessary to have this centered, the question of democracy, as the trust of our people in the different countries in the institutions is shrinking, we have to say, and probably there is a kind of backsliding all over Europe what in terms of democratic standards. I would like to mention as well the EU accession to the Council of Europe, which is now underway, which is a long-term issue. We called a lot about this, and it's good that it's proceeding. I think concerning the European political community, we should have an impact on what's going on there. I personally, I'm a bit skeptical if we need a new other body, but if this body exists, we should be part of this. I think we have a report here on the rules. I would like to remind you in the rules procedure this week that we will have a broader youth participation. I think we can agree on this. And what we face today, I think it's unique that we have so many urgent and current affairs debates, and we had to debate a lot in the Presidential Committee, in the Bureau yesterday, how to deal with all these debates. This reflects a situation of urgency around us. So we need, in my point of view, to find instruments, a way how to ensure that the Assembly remains agile, impactful, and truly step in the developments in the world around us. Let me say some things, as this could be the last speech for the Assembly. For me, we faced in Germany concerning the elections on 23rd of February. We faced a lot of very surprising irregularities, and we are facing a lack of instruments how to challenge and how to deal with this. I don't want to go too much in the details, but I would like you to look a bit closer to this, that even in a developed democracy like Germany, there are problems. There are problems how to deal with it, because we don't have a mechanism to that we can deal with it in a short time frame. We had as well problems with foreign voters. This is a thing which is in several countries. I just came last week. We had the pre-electoral mission in Albania. There is a new mechanism orientated to the German system. So the whole issue of upload voting, of voting of the diaspora is a thing we should look closer to. And let me finally say some words about the new convention which is proposed. I think it's good that we have an unprecedented loss of biodiversity, which is primarily driven by human activities within an economic system that is designed to make profit. And so I think it's good to have to look closer to us, to have a renewed convention on this, on the protection of the environment through criminal law. So in generally, I would emphasize that this organization, especially the Parliamentary Assembly, should be very, very strong in defending the rules of democracy, of rule of law, and of human rights, independent of geopolitical situation, independent of other organizations. We cooperate, of course, with the European Union, but this organization has to be strong and independent. This is my final appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Junco. I call now Mrs. Petra Bay, rapporteur, to present the second report. Dear Petra, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. I have to mention at the beginning it was the very first time in general that the PACE observed elections in Kosovo, and it was a different setting as we know it usually. There was no audio, it was just us as a delegation and the European Union, with also a small parliamentary delegation. We made separate reports, we made separate observation, but we were very well coordinated in whatever we did. Our overall impression was that it was a free, fair and competitive election in Kosovo. It was the very first time after independence that it was a whole term before, so it was the first time without snap election and with a whole period of election campaign, 4 weeks, which many of the politicians found very, very long compared to the 2 weeks they have usually. The campaign on the level of leaders was quite harsh. There was a lot of hate speech. Many fines were imposed, both by the Central Election Commission and courts, and also some leaders avoided to participate in TV confrontations. Despite the very rude tone on the leaders' level, members of local election commissions cooperated very, very collegially and respectfully, and they really overcame all the political differences and also language barriers, and they distanced themselves from the divisive language of the leaders. And also in these election commissions, where there were both Albanian speaking and Serbian speaking representatives, and they did not have any common language, or they had a common language at the end, but often the Serbs do not speak or understand Albanian and other way around, so they found English as a language that they cooperate with, and they did it very, very well. Not all polling stations were accessible for people with special needs. We witnessed, for instance, that a blind man didn't get any assistance, for instance, a braille chaperone, even if they were available, and he had to wait half an hour until somebody else came to assist him with voting, and that, of course, is not okay and not fine. So there's really place or space to improvements. And in general, we learned that the education, both of the members of the election polling commissions, but also of the public, political education of public in general, when it comes to vote and how it works, there is room for improvement. we witnessed in general quite a dynamic political landscape with 28 different political entities competing for these elections. Finally, there were 4 Albanian-speaking or Albanian representative parties elected to the Assembly, and in total 11 minority parties. For those, 20 seats are reserved in general, both for Serbian and also other minorities. And they all made it to the Assembly, so in total 15 different parties. And the first session will be held on the 15th of April, when they will start their work after these elections. The elections we observed also based on quite a lot of new legal basic we saw. There was on the one hand improvement in technological things when it came, for instance, to cameras that were placed in every single election station, where in case there was a questioning of the correctness afterwards, you could see the whole day of election and also of counting. There were no new provisions for voting out of country, and there was quite a good improvement in transparency of funding of election campaigns. So every political entity had to disclose their spendings and income. So nevertheless, what also was quite a problem because of the very tricky system for voting in one column on the party and in another column on the specific candidate, it took a very, very long time until it was really settled and clear who is member of parliament. So there are also some recommendations, of course, when it comes to procurement, to update the central civil register, which is the basis for the voters list, ethnic representation in local election commissions. There really needs to be a clarification, focus on the voters' intention when it comes to the validation of ballot papers. But all in all, let me say that I think that Kosovo really passed the litmus test when it comes to the quality of their votes, even to become member of the Council of Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Petra. We will now hear speeches from the speakers on behalf of the political groups, and I would like to remind our members that speaking time is 3 minutes. On behalf of the Socialists, Democrats and Greens, Azadeh Royan has the floor.
Thank you. Dear Mr. President, dear colleagues, the world around us and the situation within our member states continues to evolve in ways that demand our vigilance and action. This is clearly reflected in the number of urgent and current debates proposed for this session. These are not merely agenda items. They represent growing concerns about the erosion of democracy and fundamental freedoms across Europe. In Turkey, we are witnessing a deeply troubling pattern of repression. The recent arrest of Mr. Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, appeared to be politically motivated. By preventing Mr. İmamoğlu from standing as presidential candidate, the Turkish authorities are not only targeting individuals, they are obstructing the opposition and limiting citizens' rights to free political choices. The Bureau of our Assembly has therefore rightly called for the immediate release of Mr. Ekrem İmamoğlu and also underlines the need for the Assembly to step up its work on Turkey through the instruments that are at our disposal, including the monitoring procedure. As the General Rapporteur on political prisoners, I also will follow the developments closely. I would also like to use the opportunity to address the detention of the Swedish journalist Joakim Medin, who were arrested upon arriving to Turkey. This case raises serious concerns about the shrinking space for independent journalism in Turkey and the ability of journalists to report on international affairs. The Swedish authorities are therefore asking for clarifications about the charges against him as soon as possible by the Turkish authorities. And if they are not able to clarify the situation, Joachim Medin must be released immediately. Dear President, lastly, I would like to turn our attention to Hungary, where we are witnessing an intensifying crackdown on LGBTQ rights. Authorities have now banned the Budapest Pride March, an event that has been held peacefully for nearly 3 decades in Budapest. This ban follows years of increasing legal and political pressure on LGBTQ communities in the country. This is not simply about banning a march. It is an intentional act to silence and deny visibility to an entire group. Colleagues, we must not let this pass in silence. As the process to organize the march is still ongoing, I call on you to stand with the LGBTQ community in Hungary and encourage you to join the Pride March on the 20th June in Budapest. Let us show solidarity, not only in our words, but also in our presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Zadeh. On behalf of the European Conservatives, Patriots and Affiliates, the leader of the group, Mr. Zsolt-Nemet.
President, Secretary General, colleagues, the Democratic Pact is most welcome, and I think the urgency of it, in view of the past few days, is even more important. What do we experience? We are experiencing the political weaponization of criminal justice. Yes, colleagues, there is a democratic backsliding, but this time not in Budapest, not in Belgrade, but it has arrived to France, it has arrived to Poland. We have all experienced the news about the Paris demonstration yesterday. And what was the reason for that? Madame Le Pen, the leader of the biggest party in France, got a criminal sentence, 4 years imprisonment, and 5 years banning of running for any office, basically blocking her running at the next France presidential elections. And the more shocking element of this is that she doesn't have even the right to appeal. On first instance, the decision was made final. How can a first instance decision be a legitimate legal decision? Hard to understand. And a similar type of judicial activism is what we experience in Poland. The political weaponization of the criminal justice against former Prime Minister Mr. Morawiecki, or the Deputy Prime Minister of Poland. Dear colleagues, I am an old-school, conservative, Christian democratic politician. In my understanding, democracy means winning at ballot boxes and not eliminating rivals without even valid court decisions. I think this is high time to deal with real challenges to European democracies, rather than silently assisting the destruction of the rule of law in those countries where democracy has prevailed for so long. So, dear colleagues, the Democratic Pact, which I would like to recognize our Secretary General standing up for, is needed more than ever. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, dear Zsolt. Thank you, dear Zsolt. On behalf of the EPP, Boriana Aberg.
Thank you, Mr. President, dear colleagues. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine continues to claim victims. Nothing is sacred and no one is safe from the Russian barbarians who use ballistic missiles against children. 2 days ago, 9 children were brutally killed, the youngest of them only 3 years old. While the White House remains silent, we and our countries have to continue our unconditional support for the people of Ukraine. Last week, my country, Sweden, decided on the 19th military package, 16 billion Swedish crowns to Ukraine, who fights for our freedom too. Mr. President, the situation in Georgia has worsened. Yesterday marked day 130 of protest on the Rustaveli Street in the capital, Tbilisi. People are protesting against the ruling party Georgian Dream, despite an unparalleled wave of violence and repression. Hundreds of demonstrators and journalists have been beaten and targeted. Not a single police officer has been held accountable, leaving no question about who is behind the violence. Recent amendments to the election code that severely restricts election observation has been introduced. The Council of Europe Congress of Regions has made clear that the local election scheduled for this fall cannot be held without resolving the current crisis. As our Assembly stated in January, a new fair elections is the way forward. This must be accompanied by the end of repression and release of all political prisoners. Mr. President, on a positive note, I would like to welcome the agreement reached by Armenia and Azerbaijan on all provisions on the draft peace treaty. I call upon Azerbaijan to proceed with signing the agreement without further delay, refraining from artificially delaying the process. I strongly believe that the release and prompt repatriation of Armenian prisoners of war in accordance with international law and the commitments undertaken before the Council of Europe will be an essential step forward for the normalization of relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Stability in South Caucasus will create new opportunities for strengthening of democracy and the rule of law, and will enhance the protection of the human rights in the region.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Liberal Democrats, the leader of the group, Mr. Julian Boulay.
Dear President, dear Secretary General, dear Rapporteur, dear former presidents of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, dear colleagues, today our continent and our organization are facing a crucial moment, a moment of truth. The new US administration has abandoned its mission to help democracy and human rights abroad. Its leaders publicly attack progressive forces, publicly attack our values and territorial integrity of our member states, supporting extremists and xenophobes, giving a carte blanche to dictators. On our continent, illiberal forces are raising their head. It's also very sad to see half of the EPP voting along with extreme right. That's not the way we should go. Civil societies continue to resist to this creeping democratic backslide. People persistently continue to protest on the streets. From Hungary to Georgia, from Serbia to Slovakia and Turkey. What do they claim? Not economic privileges, not social benefits. They want respect. Respect for the very values of this organization, human rights, democracy, and rule of law. They want recognition for their role as a source of political power. They want to be heard, including by us. And there is our Council of Europe. On the one hand, it is an established as a diplomatical, political assembly, so we are all here to engage in dialogue. On the other hand, our organization was meant as a club of countries respecting common values and standards in the field of democracy and human rights. Nobody forces the countries to join the Council of Europe, but if they choose to do so, they need to respect our standards. We hear our colleagues who say we should have dialogue with all countries, but who will speak with the people of these countries when their government ignores them? Shall we just wait that pro-democracy protests stop and then resume talking to the government that ignores their people long enough? Do we worship stability even if it is by police batons, water and sound cannons, or do we stand with demonstrators who risk their freedom and health for the very values we speak so strongly and so often here? The moment is crucial. It will define the trajectory of European value-based political community. In my opinion, the diplomatic aspect of our organization suits much better the Committee of Ministers with highly qualified and invested diplomats. We are parliamentarians. We need to take a firm stand based on what we believe in and on what we were sent here to do, to defend democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. The value-based approach is our specificity, our added value. Today, we see that this is exactly what Europe is about and what our societies need and expect from us. So let us not be afraid. Let us speak against injustice, violence, brutality, lies, grasp on power, disrespect of minorities, authoritarian backslide. If we need to challenge the credentials of delegations, let's do it so in the future if that is needed. If we need to initiate joint procedures, membership suspension of those states who clearly disregard our standards and refuse to cooperate, let us do so. Let us not be afraid. Why being afraid using the soft tools we have to defend European values? I remind you that the Council of Europe was sticking to dialogue with Russia until March 2022. It did not prevent Russian interference in our election. It did not prevent the war against Georgia, the annexation of Crimea, and the full-scale war of aggression against Ukraine. I understand that some colleagues will not agree with me, but I think that we need to discuss this choice openly. Because with our ambiguity and contradictions while dealing with serious situations of democratic crisis today, we may just betray the human rights activists, pro-democratic protests, and finally ourselves. And now at the end, I want to thank you, Andrei Hunko, for a great collaboration, despite not always being on the same page. And in a rather personal way, I want to let know Mr. Zsolt Nemeth that, dear sir, your speeches were even better when you were a liberal 30 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the United European Left, Sevim Dagdelen.
Mr. President, I would like to speak in German. Herr Präsident.
President, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes 100 years can be just a day. Europe today is actually facing a major war. It's a bit like a Thomas Mann novel. The characters, for instance, in NATO and in the EU seem to be looking towards war as well. Now, we're told that this is just about defence, but look at the figures. The figures tell quite a different story. $1.5 billion as far as NATO is concerned. It is a military pact that in the world actually accounts for more than 50% of military expenditure. If you look at NATO as a whole, they actually provide 15 times more than Russia in this area. And if we just take the European member states of NATO, it's still 4 times more than what is being spent by Russia. 17, and I repeat, 17 secret services in the United States of America under Biden's presidency decided to move down this track. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about armament, we're talking about NATO, we're talking about the EU leadership. Listen to what they've been saying these last few months. It's not really about defence, not about defence, it's about armament. It's a little bit like the Iraq War. It means that we're actually basing this on lies regarding the situation, regarding this war. The administration is saying that 5% of GDP should be spent on military expenditure if you're a member state of NATO. That means a doubling of military expenditure, $3 billion US. And it seems to me that mainstream politicians seem to be running behind Mr. Trump and yielding to this discourse coming out of America. And this is supposedly because we want to have peace, but yet, despite the rhetoric, we are arming ourselves more and more. And people are obsessed with war, and they're even trying to do better than the USA. The USA are currently negotiating with Russia about peace, about a ceasefire, but it would appear that some would be prepared to continue the war in Ukraine even without the United States of America. This is highly perilous. Perilous for Europe, for our continent, which could be destroyed. Our continent is too beautiful. We shouldn't allow ourselves to be taken in by those who are looking for war instead. Look at all the thousands who took to the streets yesterday to demonstrate for peace. So democracy in Europe is being trampled upon. Look at Romania. The presidential candidate was disbarred for being critical of NATO. Look at Germany. Look at Germany and look at the fact that there were so many irregularities and yet there's no possible remedy, it would appear. We'll look at Estonia. Look at the Russian-speaking minority that are basically disenfranchised. And look at other arrests being made in other countries. So we need to be clear about this. If we turn a blind eye to these breaches of democracy, then that is not acceptable. We as Democrats should not allow for these things to happen, and that's why we are in favour of democracy, people's sovereignty, and no to armament. Thank you.
Speakers, Madame Edith Estrella is next.
Dear President, dear colleagues, I participated in the election observation mission in Kosovo, and I asked the floor for the floor to speak about what I saw and heard. First of all, I would like to thank Petra Bayer for her excellent work as head of our delegation. I would also like to thank the authorities of Kosovo for their invitation and support. As you know, this was the first time that our Assembly was invited to observe elections in Kosovo. These elections, as the rapporteur mentioned, have generally been considered as free, fair, and competitive. The voting process was peaceful and without tension. The international observers, including PACE teams, did not observe any significant irregularities. There were no campaigning or intimidation attempts outside the polling stations. Members of the local election commissions were very cooperative with the observers. They wanted the process to be correct and asked us frequently if everything was right. Video equipment in all polling stations further ensured transparency. Since the last elections, Kosovo has made significant efforts to consolidate its electoral framework. The adoption of the 2023 law on general elections introduced important technical improvements, including digitalization, enhanced monitoring of campaign financing, and new provisions for overseas voting. This legal framework is a crucial step towards increasing transparency and confidence in the system. Additionally, for the first time, as I mentioned before, video equipment was used in all polling stations, further strengthening electoral integrity. On the most notable aspects of Kosovo's electoral law, it is its commitment to gender representation. the requirement that at least 30% of candidates of each sex is a progressive step towards gender equality in politics. However, more efforts are needed to encourage women's participation, combat hate speech against women politicians, and evaluate the impact of preferential voting on their representation. In conclusion, the overall process was smooth and transparent, and the results were agreed upon by all members of polling station commissions. This election showcased Kosovo's democratic maturity, highlighting transparency, inclusivity, and a genuine competitive spirit. While challenges remain, the progress made should be acknowledged and built upon. The Assembly must continue committed to supporting Kosovo's democratic development. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Edith. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will now interrupt the debate to move to the next item on the agenda, as I have said, and I'm very pleased to open the ceremony on behalf of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which gives the Museum Prize award. The Council of Europe Museum Prize in partnership with the European Museum Forum. Dear colleagues, we pay tribute to this successful partnership, which is strongly carried by the succeeding European Museum Forum, presidents and highly competent, committed and enthusiastic judges. I wish to thank the European Museum Forum and Mr. Hans Loyen, Chairperson and Interim of the Board of Trustees, who is with us today, for the long-standing partnership that we have established for this prize, which is a key component of the wider European Museum of the Year award scheme. Back in 1977, the Parliamentary Assembly recognized the important role of museums acting as a resource for human development and citizen engagement. The geographical area for the scheme was, from the outset, that of the European Cultural Convention, and the aim of the scheme was to stimulate the international exchange of ideas and to create networks of inspiration. Over the years, the award scheme has observed dramatic changes in the European museum landscape, both quantitative, involving a rapid growth in the number of museums, and qualitative, affecting how museums operate and how they are perceived. Today, the main awards reflect the challenges, obligations, and opportunities which museums face in the 21st century. They carry the values that we cannot take for granted and that we must continue to defend continually, especially when democracies are backsliding and when divisions and conflicts within societies are increasing. In this context, I also wish to pay tribute to our Committee on Culture, Science, Education and Media that takes the final decision to select the winner each year. As a former member of this committee, I'm particularly attached to the fundamental values promoted by the prize, and I'm thankful to Mr. Konstantinos Evstathiou, who represented the Assembly in the pre-selection stages of the jury for this year. The key criteria for the Council of Europe Museum Prize, which a museum candidate should aim to fulfill, include, inter alia, is to promote respect for human rights and democracy, to maintain an open and inclusive policy aimed at bridging cultures, to explore ideas of democratic citizenship. The important feature that the Parliamentary Assembly looks for is that all candidates for the prize deliver a strong political message connected to respect for human rights and democracy, and that selected candidates have the capacity to guide visitors towards new knowledge and a deeper understanding of contemporary societal issues, and to interactively explore with them the ideas of democratic citizenship. Before we speak about this year's winner and screen the video, I wish to say a few words about the work of art that is associated with our prize. Juan Miró statuette, La Femme au Beau Sein, is a symbol of the Council of Europe Museum Prize. For the anecdote, The first prize has been awarded to Juan Miró Foundation in Barcelona. We are very grateful to the foundation for this kind gesture and congratulate them on their 50th anniversary this year. The statuette has been circulating among the winning museums from 1977 until February 2022, when the war of aggression started in Ukraine. Juan Miró statuette was at the time hosted by the Gulag History Museum in Moscow, winner of the 2021 Museum Prize. Following considerable difficulties to bring the statuette back to Strasbourg, the Culture Committee took a decision in April 2022 to keep the statuette on permanent display in the Palais de l'Europe, and we now have a very nice place for it outside this hemicycle. I propose now to screen the video that presents the winner of the 2025 Council of Europe Museum Prize, the Euskararen Etxea, the House of Basque Language, Bilbao, Spain. Let the video roll.
Ondo etorriak Euskararen Etxera. Hola, bonjour, welcome. 50. hamarkadako eraikin hau, hizkuntza bat biziberritzeko erronka erakusten duen kultur zentroa da orain. Kultura izan da eta bada, hizkuntza gutxituen sostengu nagusia, haien transmisioa ahalbidetu duena. Ez bakarrik hizkuntzarena, baita bere komunitatearen bizitzeko moduarena ere. Euskarak munduari begiratzeko modu bat oparitzen digu. Euskara antzinako hizkuntzatzat hartzen den arren hizkuntza gaztea da berez.
Euskara hizkuntza bizia da. Ederra, anitza, eta konpromisoa, altruismoa, eskubide zibilak eta garapen iraunkorra bezalako balioei lotuta dago. Izan ere, Euskararen existentziak planeta anitzagoa egiten du, hizkuntza eta kultura arloetan. Polita da munduari ekarpen positiboa egiten dion komunitate baten parte izatea. Azken finean, mundu hobea eraikitzen laguntzen diguna.
Zentro honetatik mundu txiki askoz osatutako mundua aldarrikatzen dugu. Txikia izateak ez du zertan zentzu negatiborik izan behar, guretzat ez baita desabantaila. Txikia dena dinamikoa da, alda daiteke, eraldatzailea da. Euskara hizkuntza txikia da, baina besteak bezain garrantzitsua. Munduko hizkuntza guztiak dira, baliozkoak eta ederrak, berezketarik gabe. Euskararen Etxeak interpretazio zentroaren bidez erakusten du posible dela hizkuntza gutxitu bat biziberritzea. Eta mezu positibo eta pizgarri bat helarazi nahi die Europako hizkuntza aniztasuna osatzen duten hizkuntza guztiei. Euskarak Europako eta munduko anistasunari gehitzen dio. Zatoze. Os esperamos. Abiento. We are waiting for you.
Dear colleagues, the Euskararen Etxea, the House of Basque Language in Bilbao, Spain, winner of the 2025 Council of Europe Museum Prize, is a grassroots initiative with intergenerational activities to promote the revival, transmission, and use of the Basque language. The House of the Basque Language is a small museum located in a working-class neighborhood outside the center of Bilbao. The museum showcases the challenge of preserving a language, as we have seen already in the video. While based on accurate and scientific information, the exhibition offers a bold, fun, and imaginative way of storytelling. Visitors can listen, read, and sing in the Basque language. The exhibition is presented in 4 languages, Euskara, Spanish, English, and French, which allows visitors to trace the similarities and mutual influences between these European languages. Instead of objects, the museum focuses on the wealth of stories, emotions, resilience, and resistance of the Basque language, people, and culture. The museum provides a collaborative working space for local associations and individuals to develop projects to promote the language and related activities. The educational program and a traveling museum have been developed with the University of Bilbao. According to the judges who visited this museum, the minority language is portrayed positively as a bridge between people and a tool for belonging and inclusion. The museum attracts many new citizens from Latin America and Africa who are regular family visitors with children. It is a big little museum with only 3 permanent staff members who manage many activities and a network of partners, including the University of Bilbao and many civil society associations and a local football club. The museum helps to create social ties and a stronger community, both locally and abroad, with diaspora communities. The Assembly of the Council of Europe praises the democratic resilience and inclusiveness of this small museum, since the museum offers a powerful and unique perspective on Europe and European identity, seen through the lens of a minority language. The Euskararen Etxea carries a strong message of hope for the future. We therefore congratulate Mrs. Jordana Aka-Suso, if I said it well, the director of the museum, and her team for their commitment, determination, and creativity to revive the use of the Basque language through a wide range of activities that are designed to reach, in a very dynamic way, a broad audience and bring different generations and different cultures closer together. Let me also congratulate Mrs. Elisabete Etsanove, President of the Vizcaya Provincial Council, and Mrs. Leisuri Arizabanaga. You have to see what the Greek names are, difficult. Deputy for Basque Culture and Sports, who are both with us today and provide all the necessary support and funding for the museum and its activities. Dear winners, Juan Miró once said, "I try to apply colors like words that shape a poem." You managed to prove that words, a language, shape a culture and a whole identity. So I want to thank you and to congratulate you once again.
Egunon guztioi, kaixo. Bonjour, hello, buenos días. I would like to thank the Committee on Culture, Science, Education and Media of the Council of Europe for awarding us the European Museum Award 2025. I am proud to receive this recognition in such a meaningful place. Euskara, jalgi adi kanpora, jalgi adi plazara, jalgi adi mundura. These words, published in 1545, are from a poem by Bernat Etxepare and mean, Basque language, go out into the street, go out into the square, go out into the world. Today, I stand happily in this square, in the hemicycle of the Parliamentary Assembly, and I share with you the pride of showing the Basque language to the world once again. Nuestro idioma, el euskera.
Our language, Basque, is a minority language that's gone through very difficult times, but which is still alive, because that is the will of its speakers. It shows a community's enthusiasm and work to preserve their own heritage, to share it with others, and to enrich our societies. And this is the work of Euskararen Etxea since it opened its doors 20 years ago to support the promotion and dissemination of the Basque language and to be a place of reference for entities involved in the revitalization of languages. In 2023, we have renewed the discourse of our exhibition with a new approach based on putting people at the centre. We want to show the vitality of our language with an optimistic, forward-looking outlook open to the world, and Etxepare said in his poem. Our centre, in an interactive, didactic and entertaining way, presents objective data with more than 600 indicators that show the real situation of the Basque language. This data has been collected from institutions and universities. The centre also shows and promotes the linguistic diversity of our people, and of course, it advocates harmonious coexistence between languages, a coexistence that is based on effective equality for their use and development, far from any subordination. Respecting and ensuring respect for citizens' rights, including linguistic rights, is a necessary condition for an inclusive, plural and cohesive society. All the activities that we carry out, in addition to the value of dissemination, play an important role in structuring, welcoming and integrating people from other cultures. The Basque Country is and has been a place of passage through which many civilizations have passed. All of them have enriched us as a society. We've never had just one language in our land because it has always been a melting pot of languages and cultures. The memory of many languages lives within the Basque language because it is not a pure language, it is multicoloured. At Euskararen Etxea, we wanted to reflect that our language is thousands of years old, and at the same time it is young, precisely because of this, because it's been able to coexist in a plural environment and adapt to every era. As a society, we see ourselves reflected in the mirror of the Basque language. In the 21st century, Basque has become a key reference model for everyone who loves cultural and linguistic diversity. We want to position ourselves as a centre of reference in linguistic matters for the rest of minority and minoritized languages in Europe. We are small, but we are a dynamic centre with intergenerational activities, creating social bonds and a stronger community. This project would not have been possible without the necessary help of the institutions, in this case the Provincial Council of Biscaya, whose head is among us, the Deputy General Elisabete Echanove. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for defending the fact that a multilingual society is much richer and that Basque is a tool for social cohesion and integration. Finally, I would like to thank the scientific team of the project, made up of the writer and philologist Kirmen Uribe, the sociolinguist Pachi Bastarica, and the museography professional Eva Tuneu for their work, and in particular the Euskararen Etxea team. We have the opportunity to work in a modern, open, dynamic and participative centre on one of the most exciting languages in Europe. Just as a language is nothing without its speakers, Euskararen Etxea is nothing without its visitors. That is why I would like to extend an invitation to you. We look forward to seeing you in Bilbao so that you can get to know, learn and fall in love with the Basque language.
Les esperamos. We are waiting for you. Merci beaucoup. Eskerrik asko bihotzez.
Thank you so much, Madame Akasuso. Dear colleagues, at this point we have reached the end of the morning session. We will meet later today at 3:30 p.m. with the agenda which was approved this morning. The sitting is adjourned.
Non, Dominique, je suis presque pas vu. C'était le stress absolu. Sur la cantine.